Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Adrienne Gilliard here with Sandra Vazan, and we're from the ELC's Inclusion Team, bringing you Behavior Bites Tidbits. This month, Sandy and I were talking about red flags, so we decided to do a red flag series. Last week, we talked about red flags for ASD. We were going to go into something else, but we found that it was very important for us to go ahead and do strategies in the classroom for ASD or autism spectrum disorder. So we are going to go ahead and jump right in.
Yeah.
And talk about some things. And we have some great visuals for you all to see as well. So Sandy, do you want me to just go ahead and start sharing those?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Slideshow. Taking forever.
Just forgot to.
Okay.
All right, so here it is. I mean, I think you did a phenomenal job in throwing, some visuals together to kind of help guide our discussion, because as we know, ASD, autism spectrum disorder, is a big hot topic, right? And we as classroom teachers, it is inevitable that we are going to come into contact with somebody who either has already been diagnosed, formally diagnosed, has an IEP, has all of these supports in place already, or chances are we are dealing with students and children who might just show some red flags and have some really big behaviors, right? Or communication deficits, or whatever that may be. So what do we do? And so here we go. Classroom strategies and the reason why, right? So some classroom strategies use pictures to explain language, and you're going to do a really, like, we're going to go into this, but this is really one of the best ways to help our students understand something as abstract as language by making it more concrete, right? Classroom strategies help us to be proactive and give us, not only us, but also our students, some insight as to what to expect, right? We're going to, some classroom strategies are going to be the effective use of calming strategies and how we can implement visuals with some of these strategies, right? So these will help your students communicate and build on active participation, because obviously we want to be inclusive in our classrooms. So despite having a label or not, right? Our goal is, how do we get all of our children to engage, providing the supports needed for those that really do struggle, right? And so we use a lot of pictures to support our language, and visuals help. I mean, look at this. Visuals help support the child in so many different ways, right? So when we say visuals, we mean just that. And it can be an object, concrete, 3D, or it could be a bunch of pictures, and it can be animated, cartoonish pictures, or it could be real life pictures, right? So it could be pictures in color, or it could be black and white pictures, right? And each one has its place, and each one has its hierarchy of when and how we should use it. And again, that goes into a deeper dive, right? So we want to give you an overall kind of understanding. And so visuals do help the children that struggle with communication, not just autism spectrum disorder, I might add, right? Let's just say that out loud. All of these supports and strategies, they're not just for ASD flags or children who've already been, identified. These can support a lot of students, right? We have language delays. I mean, there's so much going on in our classrooms, right? So, but if we can implement some of these visual supports as a strategy for our ASD populations, maybe, we are also supporting the masses, right? So they understand by using these visual supports, the children start to understand what we say more concretely, right? Because words and concepts are just that, they're abstract. But if I start talking about, let's see what I have, my glasses, for example, right? Because they're on my face. If I say, one thing is to say the word glasses, the other thing is to show glasses as I am talking about it, right? So they start to understand that our words are mean something, have significance, right? They'll be better able to predict what will happen. They may understand directions better. And this is a way to use visual supports across the classroom these are different ways we use visual supports, right? So to help that child become more independent, because we are no longer having to verbally, gesturally, or physically prompt, they have a visual. We could just point to the visual. Well, that's a gestural prompt, but if I have a visual there, right, now they can take it from there, and now they're becoming more independent. Visuals help those children with anxiety, or those children that need to know what's next, or those children that thrive on that visual schedule. They just, there's an order to their day that needs to be maintained. Visuals are phenomenal for that. And also for behavioral supports, it's a way for us to kind of explain and express what we as the educators and or parents, right, because visuals are not just for the classroom, what our expectations are, what our behavioral expectations look like, right? So go ahead and do that next slide for me. There you go. So what are some example of some visual supports? And again, picture schedules. And we have so many of these upcoming in the pictures that I feel like, okay, I want everybody to take a look at this, take a quick snapshot if you want, and then let's just go into the pictures, because I think the pictures are just so much more visual, right? Look, picture schedules, like I was just saying, a visual helps me understand better. So if I said picture schedules and we didn't have this visual, because these are visuals, right, to help explain, I mean, look, this is a great way to implement individualized picture schedules for maybe higher education, but we could use this in preschool. I think we have more pictures.
We definitely have more pictures. Yeah, this one is not developmentally appropriate for our preschool age, but it's just as an example for
how far we can go with visuals, right? And so what's the next one, Adrienne? I think even better. So it's a visual schedule. So when we talk about planning our day, our visual schedules can be something as simple as this. We also have, I think in the next slide or a couple slides, Adrienne, yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways. And again, it's not a matter of having a cookie cutter classroom. It's a matter of taking inventory as to what, first of all, is developmentally appropriate for my students at whatever age I'm dealing with, right? And also, how can I make them understand what I'm trying to explain? So, we always say for our preschoolers, always attach words, prints with a picture, right? It helps them to understand literacy. It helps them, but it also makes them understand, oh, I can read this, right? Another example of using a visual schedule, maybe for even younger, would be pictures of themselves actually participating in whatever it is that they're doing. So if it's, circle time, maybe you have your assistant teacher take a picture of you reading or doing whatever it is you do during circle time, music and movement. We have yoga poses, whatever it is that we're doing, but we have actual pictures of our current students participating. That's a phenomenal way to include them, to make it their own. And they start to understand, oh, this is what goes next. It's a phenomenal way for us to communicate. This is what's happening in your day, right? And so what else do we have?
It's a little bit blurry, but this is doing the same thing. It's talking about what happens at school that day.
Right. And we can make it individualized, right? We always talk about that very top of the pyramid. This would be the very tippy top of the pyramid. Not every student is going to need an individualized, daily schedule, but you might have one child that does, right? Or you have a few that might benefit from. So then you put it up there for as a global management system. What else do you got? These are such incredible ways to do it. Something as easy as making, look at this, bus, snack, zoo, lunch, throw ball, bus, school. I mean, this is what's going to happen for a field trip. And we know that students with red flags for ASD need a lot of warning. If there's going to be a change in a routine, what better way to kind of calm a soul down, trying to calm that anxiety down, than to tell them this is what to expect in the unexpected, what we don't normally and typically do. So when we go to the zoo, and obviously I'm explaining all of this, right? This is what we're going to get on the bus. We might have a snack, then we're going to go to the zoo. We're going to sit, and we're going to, I mean, these are just different. And what great ideas. Mm-hmm. What is that? That's like a piece of like leftover mat. What do you think that looks like over there, Adrian?
It looks like one of those foam, you know, the little foam interlocking mats that teachers put on the floor, or people use them in their exercise rooms. That's what it looks like.
I mean, you can use anything. You can use a manila folder. Mm-hmm. I think we have some more pictures regarding those manila fold, or just different examples of visual schedules, right? So that's one way. If you go back just one more, just go back for real quick. So that's one way visuals help with expectations of what's next. Mm-hmm. And this is another way we can, you know, support our students who have difficulty navigating those daily routines, not understanding. I might be having a meltdown, but me as an educator, I know, oh, it's because, you know, Adrian wants to go outside. All right, let me take Adrian to my visual schedule and show her, wait, hold on. This is where we are right now. And this is where, and I can show her and almost calm that anxiety, you know, and it's a very effective way to use visuals to kind of predict, right? And so what we also use visuals to provide direction. Mm-hmm.
I love this for those students who really don't know what they should do next, but they feel embarrassed about asking all the time what they should do next.
And what a great way. I no longer have to say a million times as an educator, right? What's next? I have this. And if I wanted to make it even more, you know, foolproof, I might even put an arrow next to one. This is the part you're at. Or if they know their numbers, I might put steps 1, 2, and 3 next to it. It depends on where we are, right, in development, and what you know that individual child needs. But right here, clear cut. I know I need to color, cut, and then glue it. It's an effective way to give directions.
Right.
What else we got?
This is another way to give directions.
I mean, and it's concrete. It pairs what I want with what I expect to see, right? So what does weight look like? It's a visual. Weight looks, it looks like I have my hands quiet and crisscross applesauce. Mm-hmm. I know what that means. That means I need to raise my hands. Mm-hmm. If my teacher is pointing to the listen, I know I need to what? Use my ears. What are ears used? I mean, visuals are such a great way to provide a direction for somebody without interrupting what you're saying to the rest of the class. Mm-hmm. If I have a student who just has so much to say, all I have to do is either point to the visual that I either have on a lanyard because I already know, or maybe my classroom rules. It's a great way to express what it is that you need without having to say a word and not interrupting the rest of the class. What else you got? What else you got for me? Perfect. Adrian, if the words art area were not there.
You have the actual items, the concrete items, just like we just talked about. They need the concrete items to see exactly what is going to happen or what needs to happen next.
In that center. I may be just 3 years old. I may not know how to read art area, but I do know what crayons are for. and that sponge, I used it yesterday because I'm blotting my paint. I like that sponge, right? So I know what area that is. I just gave what a phenomenal way to set expectations for your sensors in language, right? So now we're really talking. This is a phenomenal way to provide that extra language support. I'm
Right.
giving concrete 3D. This is what art, this is what we do with art. I start to understand, I'm starting to be able to teach like that more abstract concept of, oh, I can color here. How do you say color? How do you explain that to somebody who doesn't really have language? You show a crayon, and all of a sudden, I know what to do with that, right? Okay, the next one right next over. What is that? Big old X.
No
what are
splashing.
we not doing?
No
we are
splashing.
not splashing.
And
right?
that's one of the reasons why a lot of teachers don't like sand or water tables in the classrooms, because we have to continue to say no splashing, no splashing, but there's already a sign there.
There's a sign there. And so when you do have to follow through with your rules of no splashing, you can point back to the visual. Oh, no splashing, let me know when you're ready. Okay, or quiet hand, or just, it's a learning opportunity as well, so visual directions as to what to and not do in a center. Again, first, next, then last. We could, if my students are not at that age group, right, or at that developmental stage, I might put the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, or I might, if that's even way beyond, I might just put an arrow, or I might just put the first 2 things that they need to do because they're so distracted. Do you see how it can be so personalized? So it's very difficult to talk about strategies, global strategies, because they should be individualized, specifically for those students that have been identified, right? Like I said, a lot of our students have not yet been identified. What a phenomenal way to support. I don't need a diagnosis. I know that this student struggles with executive functioning skills. I know that it's very difficult for them to finish a task from completion, from initiation through completion. How can I help? I mean, I just need them to write their name, cut, glue, and then color, or whatever it is, right? Behavioral expectations. This is what I'm looking for right here. I don't have to say anything. They can see it. So if in the middle of me reading a story, I see, that I have a student who is just bubbling to say something, I can point to the quiet mouth, and they already know. Then wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? So it's a really great and unintrusive, that's unintrusive way of providing directions, removing me as the person that constantly needs to give those prompts, because that's the goal. The goal is to get these behaviors to happen without me as the educator or the parent or the therapist having to constantly prompt, right? So we go from these heavy prompts, all inclusive prompts where it's, close teacher proximity, hand over hand. I mean, they can be very intrusive, like physical prompting, to lesser and lesser and lesser need of me and more independent for that student to navigate. And now we're building self-confidence. Look at what you're able to do, right? One of my favorites.
My favorite. I love first then
boards. Okay, so we have these students that may be on spectrum or may not be, right? But we're talking ASD. So there's some red flags there, and they have some really hard times transitioning. They're having a really hard time figuring out, hold on, wait a minute. I don't want to necessarily move from what I'm doing, right? And let's just say there's a lack of language, right? You're not necessarily sure how much they understand because they're not expressing their wants and needs as a typically developing student might, right? For their age group. Let's just say they're 4, right? At that age, we expect a lot of expressive language. We don't even really know, because this student, I'm giving you a hypothetical, right? We don't even know how much this student really understands of my receptive language, what I'm trying to get them to. If I use a first then, what am I communicating right here, Adrienne? First what?
First, we have to do art.
And then
I can go play with my preferred things.
There's not a lot of, there's combativeness. There's not, if I can get them to understand that first I can do this, but then eventually you get to do that, we're avoiding, we're being preemptive. So we're handling a lot of challenging behaviors before they even start.
Right.
Right. And so, especially if I know, oh my gosh, this student is about done. If I could show that this visual, wait. And if I could show a visual timer, right? Like a visual timer, you got 3 more minutes in art, then you get to go play. For the most part, going to alleviate a lot of perhaps a challenging behavior.
Absolutely. If you're still experiencing challenging behaviors with any of the children in your classroom, do not hesitate to reach out to Debbie Kay on our warm line, where the number is 954-295-0672. We'd like to encourage you to connect with us during the week on Fridays for our Behavior Bites Zoom that's held from 1 until 2 every Friday. Speak to your director about registering. And if you found this video and other videos of ours helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. And please come back so we can do part 2.
Yeah. See you later.